The single crochet is one of the easiest and most versatile crochet stitches that we have. If you're looking for a way to make this stitch, I'm going to show you in a very short video. And without much further ado, let's get into the single crochet pattern. For this tutorial, I'm going to use one ball of yarn and one hook. The size of the hook that you use depends on the size of the yarn. So if you're going for something thick, you also need to use a wider hook. So we'll start by making the foundation chain, which we do by first making a slip knot. And then you insert your hook into the slip knot. If you're not sure how to make a foundation chain, I have another video on how to do that. But in this case, we'll just focus on how to do the single crochet. So once you've inserted your hook into the first chain, you're going to pull through to make a second chain. We're going to work with a chain of 15. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. So that's my foundation chain. If you're unsure how to make a foundation chain, you can always use the video that I showed you, because in this case I'm going to skip over this part and just move ahead to work on the rows. So once you've made your foundation chain, let's move on to the first row and I'll show you how it differs from the others. For the first row, you don't do any chain ones. Instead, what you do, you're going to skip the first chain and you're going to insert your hook into the second one. Then you're going to yarn over and pull through, and then you're going to yarn over again and pull through. That's your first chain. So let's do that again. Let's move on to the second one. What you're going to do, we worked on the second chain, so you're going to work on the third chain. You're going to yarn over and pull through, and then you're going to yarn over again and pull through. You can slow down the video so that you can see how I'm doing that, but I'll go slowly. So we've worked on the second and the third chain, so we're going to move into the fourth chain. So once again, you go in, you're going to yarn over and pull through, and then yarn over again and pull through. You can see now we're getting a bit of a pattern. So let's continue doing that. We're going to work on the fifth one, yarn over and pull through, then you're going to yarn over again and pull through. So let's work on the sixth one. We're going to go in, you're going to yarn over, pull through, then you're going to yarn over again and pull through. You can see a bit of a pattern forming, and then you're going to work on the next one. Once again, yarn over, pull through, then yarn over and pull through. So the next one, here we go. Insert your hook into the chain, yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through. Let's work on the next one. You're going to yarn over and pull through, and you're going to yarn over again and pull through. And then let's move on to the next one. Once again, yarn over, pull through, and then you yarn over and pull through. Let's move on to the next one. You can see that the chain is now forming a pattern. So again, you go in, let's see, yarn over, pull through, yarn over and pull through. Next one, we're going to go in, yarn over and pull through, and yarn over again and pull through. And then we move on to the next one. You can see we are now nearing the end of the chain. Yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through. So now when we come to the final one, you want to make sure you don't leave it out. It's usually a bit tight, but you also want to make sure that you've gotten it. So we're going to insert the hook inside, yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through. So now at this point, we're going to check the number of chains that we're working with. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. So you're going to turn your work. We're now going to work on the second row. So you're going to turn your work. This is what it means to turn your work, if you ever hear someone saying that. So once you've turned your work, we're going to work on row number 2. Unlike row number 1 where we skipped the first one, in this case we're not going to skip anything. So the first thing you want to do is chain 1. That's what it means to chain 1. And then now you're going to work on the immediate chain that's next to that. So you're going to follow the same pattern that we've been using. So you're going to yarn over and pull through, then you move on to the second one. You'll notice that in the foundation for the first row, we actually skipped the first chain, but in this case we're not going to be skipping anything, and we're going to continue working on every chain. There we go. And you'll notice that I'm working on the back row. There are many ways to make a single crochet, but most patterns require you to work on the back row. This is the front row, this is the back row. So we're going to work on the back row, but it's also possible to work with the whole chain. Let me show you an example of that. So in some cases, you'll find that instead of working on the back row or the front row, you're going to work under the whole chain like this. And that's also a way to single crochet, but in this case, because I want the pattern to come out, for this specific pattern, we work on the back row, but it's also possible to work with the whole chain or even with the front row. So in this case, I'm going to be specific. We're working on the back rows. So we're continuing with the same pattern that we've been using into the back row, yarn over, and once again, yarn over. The single crochet is actually one of the easiest crochet patterns because it does not require a lot of work, and from the second row you'll be able to use the same pattern throughout your whole project depending on what you're making. You can also alternate this with other patterns if you want to. For example, you can do a single crochet and a half double crochet, or you can do a single crochet with a double crochet. There are just very many ways to go about this stitch, and it's a very versatile one. And I like using it for some of my cardigans because it makes the pattern, it's just a very simplistic yet very beautiful pattern. So when you get to the end, make sure that you get that last chain just like that, and then there you go. See, it's going to be straight. So you're going to turn your work once again, and we're going to work on row number 3. So let's do that. Row number 3, we'll use the same pattern that we used in row number 2. As you can see now, you can see the pattern coming out. So let's see how this looks. Once again, you're going to chain 1. That's chain 1, and then oh, I almost did a half double stitch. Yeah, so after you chain 1, you work on the first chain. There we go. Then you're going to yarn over again and pull through, then into the second one, yarn over, and then you pull through, yarn over again, and you pull through. You see, with a single crochet you make progress. It's a bit slower than the other stitches, but it's also quite fast, especially when you're working on a small project. So if you're looking for something that's easy to do, that you can do as you're talking to someone or when you're watching your favorite shows, this is one of the stitches that can really work for you. So once again, you yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through. It's going to be a bit repetitive from now on because this is the nature of the stitch. It's just yarning over and pulling through. When you get to the end of the row, you turn your work and you chain 1, and then you do the same thing all over again, which makes it one of the easiest stitches to learn. But you can also make some mistakes with these, like I said when I did the foundational row video, because it's easy to make some mistakes like lacking consistency in the tension that you're using, or working with some wider spaces and then some narrow spaces. That can make your work look non-uniform, but that's something you can do. If you practice the single crochet, you can make sure that you don't make such mistakes. When you get to the end, make sure you get that last one.